Hello YouTube and fellow DC Comic fans! I'm Kelly One Shot, and this is my review of Superman number 7 from DC Comics. Okay, so at the end of issue number 6, we actually saw the return of Jonathan Kent, the Superboy, to Superman Comics. We know that at the end of the Man of Steel, Jonathan went on a cosmic space journey to grow up and learn more about his Kryptonian roots from his grandfather Jor-El, and his mother Lois Lane went with them on the cosmic space adventure. We do know that Lois came back much earlier than Jonathan did, but we also see that as Jonathan has come back, he appears to be much older than he was when he left. He seems to be more of an older teenager, and he left and he was around like 10 or so. He was a young kid still. He was a super son. Now he's almost a Superman. He's a super young adult. We do learn through Superman and Jonathan talking in this issue that Jonathan has actually aged about 7 years roughly, and Superman questions how this might have happened, whether it was blue kryptonite, indigo kryptonite, gold kryptonite, some Brainiac related cloning experiment, or whatever have you. But Jonathan reassures his father that he didn't transform or anything like that. To him, 7 years has passed, and he was with Jor-El during those 7 years, and he's going to try kind of tell us a little bit more about what happened and what transpired during these 7 years. Though to us, Jonathan was only gone 3 weeks in Superman's timeline. Jonathan was gone for about 3 weeks. Lois may be gone for about a week, week and a half, 2 weeks at most. But Jonathan, seemingly 7 years has passed, and he's older. So he's talking to his father, and they're going to try to figure this all out. Jonathan tells Superman that he was in Grandpa's ship, and then there was this twirly, windy black hole, and everything went all bright lights, and he realized that the galaxy was much bigger than it was, and so he's going to tell Superman kind of like what happened. Superman says that we need to figure things out, we need to get you checked at the Hall of Justice, see what's going on with your body. Jonathan reassures him that he's okay. So then the two of them go and visit Lois Lane, who's at her apartment. She seems to be writing, and she's also kind of provocatively waiting for Superman, because when Superman shows up, she has her shirt open and her breasts kind of exposed a little bit, which embarrasses the hell out of Jonathan, and Superman has to cover up his son's eyes. I thought that was kind of funny. She does see that her son is now here, and he's aged. And I gotta say, honestly, Superboy's new suit is actually pretty cool. I like the black pants, I like the black gloves, I like his House of L symbol, and kind of like the shoulder pad area, and even his hairstyle looks pretty good. So the new character design of the 17-year-old Superboy is actually pretty cool, and I'm a fan of it. So as the Kent family is meeting up, Lois is wondering the same thing. Was it a kryptonite thing? What happened? How have you aged? She cries that she missed so much time from her son growing up, and that she now feels bad for having left early. We do find out that more about what happened, and Jonathan says he swears that it was 7 years for him, but it's only 3 weeks for us. So Jonathan wants to kind of explain a little bit about what happened. He kind of like doesn't even remember why he was angry and wanted to leave. Clark reminds him that it was because he didn't make the Teen Titan lineup, which honestly that book probably would have been better if Jonathan was in it. But either way, he wasn't accepted to the Teen Titans, so he agreed to go on this cosmic adventure with his grandfather and his mother. And he explains to his father that the ship that they left in at the end of the Man of Steel book wasn't actually the ship that they were traveling into, that it was a vessel to this much bigger ship that Jor-El had, and it was this huge, humongous ship where they all kind of had their own Fortress of Solitude that they could customize within this huge ship. And as that happens and Lois and Jonathan are getting comfortable, the ship is actually attacked by the Dominators, surprisingly enough. So Jor-El and Jonathan smash into the Dominator's ship, attack them, take care of them, and then Jor-El actually finds out that the Dominators had it in their star chart that they were eventually headed towards Earth. So him and Jonathan having to take care of this issue now saves Earth some problems potentially down the road, and another headache that Superman doesn't have to deal with. So that's pretty cool. We do see that Lois is wearing Clark's New 52 suit because he gave it to her during the Man of Steel so it could protect her body during the cosmic exposure to radiation and whatever else has and is out there in the galaxy. So she's wearing Superman's New 52 suit, which custom shrinks and fits to her body. So it's kind of cool seeing Lois in that suit. Lois, Jor-El, and Superboy talk about getting food, so they go to a nearby planet, and on this planet we see different alien species and races, and they're all kind of looking at Lois in a certain way, and Jor-El explains to her that it's because out here she's seen as royalty because she's wearing the House of El. She's wearing the suit of Superman from Earth, and everybody in the galaxy knows who that is, so she's famous. We then see a bunch of the different aliens on this planet going up to Lois and touching her symbol. A little inappropriate. The one lady just straight touches Lois's boob with the House of El symbol on it, which I was like, what's going on there? But they're all looking towards her for help. They're facing trouble. Their planet is being, their children are taken away from their planet and being put into slavery. So they want help from Lois, and she doesn't know what to do. Meanwhile, we see Jonathan getting food, and he wants to eat something wacky and crazy, but Jor-El's like, yo, my man, just eat some tater tots, bro. And he's like, oh, I like some tater tots. But then actually we see Lobo, the main man, come by, and he's like, hey, little Superboy, I know who you are. What are you doing here? How's your dad? Is the Justice League here? And Superboy's like, no, I'm not little Superman. I'm Superboy. I'm on this journey. He kind of briefly explains to Lobo what's going on. And Lobo's just like, yeah, well, it's up to you to decide whether and when you want to be a man. So if you can be a boy all you want, but you're going to have to step up and be a man, and that's your choice. And I don't really know why Lobo was there other than the quick little cameo. But it was cool to see the main man there on this random planet with Jor-El, Lois, and Jonathan. After that brief interaction, we then see all the different people looking towards Lois for help. They want their problem solved. Then Jor-El decides to get involved, figure out more about what's going on, and then they find out where the slave camp is, where all the people from this planet's children are being taken. So Jonathan and Jor-El go to that area, and Jor-El just lets Jonathan go in there on his own, and Jonathan is filled with rage because he sees these people being enslaved and tortured and treated unfairly, so he is by himself able to take out this slave camp. And it was at that point that Lois realized and knew that she doesn't really need to be here, that Jonathan can take care of himself and fend for himself, because she kind of just seen it happen with the Dominators and again on this planet. So then Lois does decide to get back into the spaceship and return to Earth, and we did know that Lois went to Earth earlier, because this story right here happened on the ship, you know what I mean, to Jonathan several years ago. To Clark, it was about 3 weeks ago. And then Jonathan mentions that at this point when Lois left, this is when he started to get some hints about Jor-El and a kind of like what his true motives are on this whole adventure. We then go and Jonathan tells his two parents that he was trying to get back home and tell them that his grandfather is completely insane and that they have to do something about it, and he tells Superman that he's sorry. And that's actually where we end this issue on a cliffhanger, realizing something that we kind of already knew during the Oz effect, is that Jor-El, Mr. Oz, is kind of insane. You know what I mean? He was tortured, he was saved from the brink of death and watched his planet explode. He was put into a prison room and then set as the warden, essentially, of that prison, assumingly by Dr. Manhattan, but we still don't know because they never officially connected that dot or not. You can see some of that in Superman and Action Comics, the Man of Steel, Detective Comics during the James Tynion run, and anything with the Oz effect on it. Those were all really great stories. This book was pretty good, and I hope that it sets up this nice story involving Jor-El and what's going on. We do still have Rugal Zar out there, and Jor-El should know something about Rugal Zar, so we're still waiting for that conversation between Clark and his father to find out what he knows about Rugal Zar and the destruction of Krypton. But then now we have to figure out what happened over the course of these 7 years and why Jonathan thinks that Jor-El is insane and why he needs to be dealt with. I can't wait to find all that out. I'm definitely looking forward to Superman number 8. I thought this book was really good for the most part. The artwork was really great. Like I said, I do like Superboy's age up, and I think the new suit looks great. One thing, though, that I do wonder, and I did mention it in my Young Justice review last week, is that now, at the end of Young Justice, we saw Superboy Connor Kent, the original Superboy, you know, aside from Clark Kent Superboy. But either way, we saw Connor Kent, and he is in Gem World right now with Bart Allen, but he's going to be in Young Justice, and I'm sure they're going to go back to Earth. So what are we going to do with Connor and Jonathan? How are the two going to coexist as Superboy? Is one of them going to get a name change? Who knows? Yeah, we'll see what happens, how they choose to handle that whole... but it shouldn't really be a problem, because we had... many times over, we've had multiple Robins at the same time. We've had multiple Batmen at the same time. We've even had 2 different Supermans during Rebirth. During Rebirth, we had Barry Allen Flash and Wally West Flash, so it's really not that confusing, especially if you know what's going on, you know who the characters are, and you don't get things confused. The two are drawn very differently, so I don't think that should be an issue. Either way, I like what's going on here. I think Bendis is doing something really good. I do prefer the Superman story as opposed to what's going on right now in Action Comics, but Action is pretty good as well. Either way, this is my quick little review. I thought it was great, thought it was a great setup. Can't wait for Superman number 8. I'm Kelly One Shot. Take care, have a great day, and goodbye!